Hey, how's it going everyone? Mick Ambrose from AllAboutTech. Welcome back to another video. Today is part 2 of question time with Richard Ells. Just before I wanted to get into it, ETN Academy are doing a offer for their first cryptocurrency course, which they've just released. It's basically the introduction of cryptocurrency, etc. If you go to their website, it's broken down into 4 separate lessons. They're going to be doing a lot more courses on cryptocurrency on ETN, not just Electroneum, obviously, but I managed to gain access to this course, and it's really well laid out. It's really simple to use. This video isn't endorsed or paid for by ETN Academy, by the way, but they're doing a really cool 10,000 ETN giveaway, which I will be giving away on my channel. Links will be in the description. Go check them out. Really low priced for the information that you gain out of the course, etc. Better detail than what you'd find just on like a YouTube video and stuff, because these guys actually have like teaching experience, etc. So check them out, guys. Links will be in the description. And without further ado, let's get into part 2 of question time with Richard Ells. I hope you enjoy it. Right, so going into the next question, Richard. So, are the team planning on making a GUI wallet for PC?
Maybe. I mean, it's not. Funnily enough, we have played around with GUI wallets before. We've got a few half-built GUI wallets, I think, but the difficulty is we're absolutely flat out with the tech. From app-based tech. There probably are GUI wallets out there. I can't endorse any of them, but I wouldn't be surprised if there are Electroneum GUI wallets out there, because anybody who can use a bit of Node.js could probably put one together from a Monero GUI wallet. So I suspect they exist. That's probably the easy answer to that. I'd like to build one at some stage, but it will be down track.
Awesome stuff. Moving on to the next question. So what are your thoughts about price stability? If ETN is to be used as a currency, the price has to be stable, and obviously in the crypto space there is a lot of volatility.
Yeah, well, let's look at the size and liquidity of some of the markets, right? So if you look at the size of Bitcoin and you look at the liquidity in the Bitcoin market, and they still have monster instability, and they still have huge rockets in price and drops in price, it's very difficult for me to sit here and hand on my heart say we're not going to have instability in our price. I think it would be disingenuous of me to say, oh, don't worry, we've got that covered. We are still at the whims of the market. However, something that's super critical to say is that Bitcoin is owned and used by speculators and investors virtually exclusively. So it is not being used as an everyday currency. And forgive me if you are using it as a currency. I've bought things in Bitcoin myself, so I know that it is capable of being used as something you can use to buy things with. But generally it isn't. 99.9% or something of Bitcoin's trade is through exchanges for people who are trading it for other currencies and using it for speculative reasons. So that means that there's an amplification when the market starts to turn. You get this amplification, a ripple effect of everyone following suit. So they go, oh, the market's going down, and they jump out. The market's going up, and they jump in. Now, I think, and this is only my personal opinion, but my belief is that if you have a widely distributed cryptocurrency with users galore, and at the moment ETN is high levels of speculation, and not that, whilst we've got a lot of users, they're still just sitting on the coins. They're not using them in everyday life because that isn't really open yet. So within a few weeks we go out, well, certainly within the next couple of weeks we go out into beta testing of the instant payment and API. Once the API is out there, it makes it really, really easy to integrate into a website, the payment in ETN. Much, much easier than it is to run a node and integrate Bitcoin into your website. It's super easy to integrate the payment. It integrates in exactly the same way as PayPal or Stripe or one of these other gateways. So once we get that and people start using it as a currency to buy things and sell things, and we get that into wide adoption, then I believe that you will start seeing less effect from speculative community. Because if you've got a huge number of coins locked into this ecosystem, then you hopefully will get slightly less of that effect. One other thing that's important to say, it's early days. You're going to get these peaks and troughs. That's inevitable. But one of the other things that's good to say is, if you look at some of the markets that we're looking at, so if you look at M-Pesa, you've got to see M-Pesa. They're a great success story in fintech. So they are in Kenya. They've got 30 million users or something. Enormous success story in mobile payments. And it's run by a mobile operator. It's based around airtime, and it's a fantastically clever fintech. Now, it's not particularly cheap. Forgive me if you're from M-Pesa, but it's not particularly cheap to make transfers. Ours is an extremely cheap way of making transfers, right? ETN. So if you look at some of the other ways of transferring money in the developing world and look at the cost of it. So if you look at the cost in to name a few others, probably I'm getting into the danger zone of naming brands. But if you look at some of the other brands that are out there where you can transfer money around, the cost to do those transfers is relatively high. So bear in mind, if you were to make those transfers in ETN and you had a 10% fluctuation en route, it was probably still cheaper than if you made a traditional transfer and just accepted it was going to cost you 10 or 15% to make a transfer. So whilst there are things where you say, oh, actually, well, the price of this product has gone up or gone down. If you're actually just making transfers between agents, that point, the transfer fluctuation is probably easily absorbed. The next thing is, if we mostly target things that don't matter too much if they fluctuate, you start getting into this, the initial instance of sales can handle that fluctuation. So if you imagine the gig economy that I'm talking about, if that user finds out that they've earned 20% less than they would have done because the price has gone down by 20%, then it's disappointing, but they've still managed to earn some money from the West that they were unable to earn before. Now, if the price has gone up by 20%, they're not going to be bothered because they're happier. So the fluctuations on your time become less important. If you were selling gold coins for ETN, you may well be really, really, really bothered by even a 5% fluctuation is a danger to you. Because if your margin is only 5%, 10%, and it fluctuates 20%, suddenly you've taken a real world loss. But if you're selling your time, then actually, whilst it's a real world loss, actually it just means that you've worked a little harder or worked a little less hard for the money that you've earned. So cryptocurrency fluctuations, of course, it's on our mind, but we're also thinking about it. We know exactly what we're facing, and we have all of our ecosystem is built around the fact that we know that exists, and we will overcome it.
Awesome stuff. Right, moving into the next question, and this is going to be about the Electroneum app. So are you going to allow for subscriptions of ETN in the app integrated? And then are you also going to allow users to buy ETN with fiat from the app?
Okay, two very different questions. The first one, subscription. Our patent covers subscriptions. It covers subscriptions in any cryptocurrency, actually, but obviously Electroneum is the first one we'll do. Our instant payment beta is coming out a couple of weeks' time, where the API gets launched. That does not enable subscriptions out of the box. So it's our MVP, minimum viable product for the API. We've got quite a lot of things to do to that. Building a refund system, a partial refund system, and various other things for the vendors will happen first. And then once that's written and all stable, we'd start looking at the next layers of functionality, subscriptions of which is on the list. So probably we won't see subscriptions until either the end of this year or the beginning of next.
Awesome stuff.
Then the next part, which is a slightly different thing, which is, will we have the ability to buy and sell ETN within the app effectively? I don't think the answer will be yes. Certainly not in the short term, maybe in the very long term. But when I say the very long term, not even 2019, but it would be beyond, I suspect, because whole different bunch of regulation, whole different bunch of problems to solve, and the people that are out there solving those are the exchanges. There is a possibility we'd partner with more closely with some exchanges if they have API gateways that enable us to do so. So there is a possibility we could do something. I haven't spent a lot of time looking into it, but initially my thoughts are we are trying to make sure that the ability to transfer in and out of fiat is available elsewhere rather than through the app at the moment.
Okay, perfect. And just in terms of that, obviously, in terms of ETN being massively adopted and used worldwide,
yeah,
it's got to be easy to obtain, not just in the sense of with the gig economy and that, but being able to buy ETN.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that with the exchanges, like with some of the exchanges that have already listed ETN, via fiat pairings, people can, it's as easy as logging on just to the one website, whereas if you want to buy other cryptocurrencies, you have to buy Bitcoin.
Yeah,
and in a lot of cases with those exchanges, they don't have direct fiat pairings to Bitcoin, so you have to do it through, say, Coinbase or blockchain.info, transfer it over, and then buy your altcoin with that. So ETN is actually essentially going to be one of the easiest altcoins to be able to get a hold of.
Well, certainly we have great plans for some of the exchanges we're already talking to are doing fiat pairings. And one of the exchanges that it's not live yet, but it should be live imminently. It's been promised to me a couple of times, but it's imminent, and it's a big part of where we see this going. There's a company called Next Exchange. We like them. They've got big plans. That one of the things that they do right now, ETN is not live today, I don't think, but it's certainly by the time this video goes out, they may be. If not, keep an eye on them. I know it drives people a bit crackers that I talk about exchanges that we're doing deals with and they're not live yet, and half the community want to know that and half of them don't want to know it, and it drives the community a bit mad sometimes. But all the people that I talk about, whenever I talk about an exchange, it's in the pipeline. We're dealing with them. We've either paid them already, or it's happening. You know, I never talk about exchanges that are just pipe dreams. You know, they're just real things. And Next Exchange have got PayPal, so this is a critical part of that fiat pairing. So what that means is that the guy in America he's never used crypto either, and he wants to buy, let's say he wants to buy a whiteboard animation or a stop frame animation for his social media, and he wants to buy it from someone who's listed it on our gig economy site, right? So how does he do it? So the gig economy site will give instructions, and one of the things it would say is, if you've got a PayPal account, and we know that there are 500 million of those, and in America it's dead easy to get one, so the Americans can go to their PayPal, fire it across the Next Exchange. Next Exchange, you could buy ETN directly through PayPal, and you could have some, which then gives you the ability to pay the gig economy site to buy your services. Now that sounds a bit convoluted, except if you went off to one of the existing gig economy sites, chances are these people will be able to undercut the existing gig economy sites. And if you went to your local agency, it would be orders of magnitude cheaper. So if you went to your local agency and said, hey guys, I'd like you to design me a stop frame animation of our logo coming together out of, you know, bits and pieces laying around and swirl about and do something exciting because we're going to post it on our social. That's the sort of things people love to share on social. If you had a whole bunch of fir cones or a whole bunch of rice swirling around to make a logo, you know, that's the sort of thing that would be consumed on social. Dead easy for someone in the developing world to learn to do that technique with a stop frame animation app, right? But they could spend 2 hours of their time and be super happy to have earned $5. You know, really ridiculously happy probably to have earned $5 in 2 hours of their time. You go to a Los Angeles agency and say how much it's going to cost to make that. It's not going to be $5. It won't be $50. You know, it's more likely going to cost you hundreds and hundreds of dollars, which is why your social media doesn't currently have that, because it's not worth spending a couple of $100s on it. But it is worth spending $5 a day on your social media, perhaps, to be getting this content on. So, but now you've unlocked a way of doing it. Go off, PayPal, buy your ETN, buy it from this gig economy site. So again, it's sort of part of the ecosystem and the economy that I'm talking about us building. We've thought of this all the way through.
Fantastic, awesome stuff. So moving on to the next question, I'm going to go into how am I going to convince of any of my clients to accept ETN? This was from a specific user. So he owns like a retail business by the looks of it. So how is he going to convince his clients to accept ETN? And then he says, I assure you no retailer will be interested in ETN, and then selling it on an exchange.
Yeah,
so
okay, yeah.
making it easy to be able to swap it.
Once again, you see, I think that question is probably coming from someone who's only really got this vision of someone trying to... See, if I go to Marks and Spencer's and convince them to try, or tried to convince them, right, to take Electroneum. Marks and Spencer's is a big UK brand. They're not going to take ETN for exactly that reason. One, trying to convince their users to pay in ETN. Why would they? They've got easier ways to pay and better ways to pay, which is sort of comes back to this unbanked question and why that's where we're starting. You need to get something that works well in an area before it will be accepted by other people. And if you say, I'm going to really struggle to convince someone to accept Electroneum in the store and then cash it in because people can pay on Visa, that isn't really our target market. If the person at the moment does not have any way to accept a digital payment, they only take cash, this will be the same thing for them. This will be the very first time they've ever been able to accept a digital payment in their shop. Now that opens up things for them. So that it gives them the ability to accept payments for things where the customer isn't there, for instance. It gives them the ability to accept digital payments with very low transfer fee and sit on that to use it for something else. So now you go, okay, well, what is that something else? So remember that the first agents that we're talking about, so the first shops, again, when you think about a shop, you think about it as having aisles and fluorescent lights and a great big storefront and 200 staff. When I say the first shops, I'm talking about small shops in the undeveloped world or even smaller. So the first people that are accepting this, we have to make sure that they have got somewhere to spend it themselves, which is what we are doing. So we know that person sells mobile data for cash. So therefore, as long as they can buy their ETN, they can buy their airtime for ETN, which we're doing the deals to make sure that happens. They have somewhere that they could take ETN for an Apple, right? The person goes off with their Apple. They could take ETN for anything in their shop, and then they end up with some ETN. So what do they do with it? They buy airtime with it, and lo and behold, that airtime is something that they can then sell in their shop for the guy who comes in with cash. So this is part of our ecosystem question again. You know, obviously, we'd be fooling ourselves if we said, right, we've built a cryptocurrency. Now we're going into London and we're going to find shops that take it, right? So we could probably convince some shops in London to take it, but you're never going to get the customers to come in and pay for it. You know, we're not silly. We totally understand that. So all of our ecosystem is being built into the hundreds and hundreds of millions of people that this can make a difference to their lives, rather than, you know, the hundreds and hundreds of millions of people who it can't make any difference to their lives. So this chap who's said about, you know, I can't convince my people to take it. Unfortunately, that may be the case at the moment, and I'm sorry that that's the case. But trust me when I say we have got absolutely millions of people who will accept it, and we have a plan for how it will influence their lives and make their lives better, which means that we can grow it and grow it and grow it. And then once you've grown it to a certain size, you get this point where actually it becomes something that now the West is more interested in.
Yeah,
you know, the West is not that interested to start with because it's provincial to them. But once you've got a big thing and you've got a big economy, the West want to tap into it because, right, the whole West is a capitalist society. So you see a big bunch of money anywhere, and the West is going to go, right, how can I get a piece of that action? So that's what we've got to do. We've got to grow it to the size that the West become interested, rather than trying to grow it to that size in the West.
So say, like you said, with the whole unbanked, it's gonna be so disruptive in that sense because they don't have a solution for that yet.
Yeah.
The whole digital payment solution, they can go around anywhere where they live if they've got all this entrepreneurialism going
Yes.
on, accepting ETN, like you said, they buy airtime with that ETN.
Yeah.
They then sell for cash. But if you're even without selling the airtime for cash, if ETN is just being used to buy everyday goods.
Yeah, or services in time. Yeah. So if somebody knows that they can top up their phone without having to do the walk, and what do? They go off and they sweep somebody's house out. Right. That's what their job is. They sweep a patio. Well, if you took some of that payment in ETN from the person who owned that place, and they paid someone in ETN because they know they can now top up their phone without having to do the walk, which means they can do an extra hour shift. Suddenly, you've got so many levels of bonus for that person. So they haven't had to do the walk. They've been able to top up their phone. There's a possibility, some of the operators we're talking to, there is a possibility we're going to be able to actually discount their airtime by paying an ETN, because the airtime providers have a margin on what it costs to deliver that. So if we reduce that margin, it means that they can actually offer a discount, which is a bigger incentive to pay with ETN. So if you can convince other people to pay you some ETN, then suddenly, you know, that money can be transferred for labour as well as physical goods. And if you can transfer it for labour, then suddenly that person is now more convenient to pay as well. So I can pay that person, but how do I get any? Well, actually, my son has amazing digital skills. He's online doing things. Let's talk to him about it. Oh yeah, okay, yeah, he's learning all these things. Suddenly he breaks the poverty cycle himself because he's doing things that are incredible. We've been dealing with HackerOne, and we've been working with them because, you know, they work with the American Department of Defense, and we're running everything past them effectively. So their hacking teams try and hack into everything that we produce. HackerOne, one of their top guys, is a 15-year-old child who lives in Mumbai, and he earns sort of, you know, enormous amounts of money from working for HackerOne. Well, I mean, it's beyond anything else. He's bought himself a house. He's bought his parents a house. You know, it's totally changed his life because he has those digital skills. So from his point of view, he's part of the bank, you know, and he works in Mumbai. It's relatively developed in the undeveloped world, but he's doing exceedingly well out of it. Now, I'm not suggesting that these guys are going to go off and earn £500,000 a year and buy a house from this, but actually $50 a month in additional earnings would be an enormous amount to hundreds of millions of people.
Definitely.
So, yeah, sorry, long answer again.
That's all right. Just to end on that. All these things that may seem like they're not huge in terms of the current crypto space. It's not the current crypto space that you're accommodating for, is it?
No.
It's mass adoption, and then all these things have a domino effect that link together to create this ecosystem. Yeah,
I sat down with some guys the other day, and they said, look, why would I invest in Electroneum? Why would I buy Electroneum? And I said, well, look, we're not trying to get investors into us, by the way. I was just talking about somebody who they were talking about why would they buy some Electroneum for themselves. And I said, well, look, we're in a situation where people are talking to us and saying, well, you're not solving blockchain problems. And you're probably right. We're not solving blockchain problems because that's been solved. Someone else has invented the blockchain. Great. We've now got that all stable and working. We don't need to solve that problem. That problem has been solved. The problem is no one's using it to make the world a better place. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to actually get real users of the blockchain. And I've seen people who are going in and buying into projects and getting excited about projects that have got some exciting new tech. But no actual delivery of it. Then no one's going to use it. No one's going to actually go, this thing is going to it's got the capability of being adopted to change the world. But what we're doing is saying, look, we've got that, the blockchain works, let's try and use this now. So there's a quote, I can't remember it exactly, but Christine Lagarde, head of the IMF, I think, you might need to Google that, but she gave a quote about financial inclusion, talking about blockchain and how it could help financial inclusion or cryptocurrency. And that's exactly the point. Financial inclusion is something lots of businesses, from a CSR perspective, corporate social responsibility, lots of businesses would like to see the world made a better place, and they would like to see financial inclusion, but no one knows how to do it, no one knows how to make it happen, and that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to do it in a we're not trying to do it because, hey, we're a charity, or we're all about doing it just for the sake of making the world a better place. We're a commercial company, and if you've got large numbers of users in that space, it's still a huge market. So you might only earn $1 or $2 in the future. This is not right now. We've got no monetization right now, but in the future, once you've got a huge number of users, you might only earn $1 or $2 or $3 a year from those users. But you stack that up to 100 million users, and you've got a really, really monster fintech company. So I'm not doing this out of the goodness of my heart. I'm doing it because I'm trying to run a really good commercial company, and it feels really nice to be running a really good financial company that's also doing something good. It's the two things can work together.
Fantastic, awesome stuff. So I hope you really like that part of the question time with Richard Ells. As you can see, his way of linking some of the questions that are asked, he's linking them together, which is absolutely excellent to do so, because it's making it relevant for everything that we're currently talking about. Obviously, price stability was mentioned in that part. That is extremely important. That is something a lot of people are concerned about in terms of the longevity of not just ETN, but cryptocurrency as a whole. Will it be able to be used? And looking at obviously how much cheaper it is to use crypto, and if there's a little price bump or a price drop, the charges that you get from other traditional ways of transferring money, especially internationally, it kind of swallows up that cost. But if you really like this part, please give it a like, subscribe to the AllAboutTech channel. We are not done yet. There is still more to come. I will release the next episode tomorrow, and I'll catch you guys out in the next video. Peace out.